All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk, Hacking Stripe Integrations to Bypass E-commerce Payments. So in this presentation, I'll basically be going through the integration of Stripe, and I'll be taking a deep dive into the integration and explain how I found really simple issues. Like, you'll be amazed how simple those issues were. And yeah, I have a lot of flowcharts there, so we'll be diving into a lot of integration. So yeah, buckle up. Before we get into the talk, a little bit about myself. I'm Ananda, Dhakal, and I work as a vulnerability researcher at Patchstack. So I'm looking into WordPress ecosystem on a daily basis, and I am also the brand ambassador of HackerOne for Nepal, and I also do part-time bug bounty hunting. You can find me on the X at Dhakal_Ananda. So the agenda for today's talk is why Stripe? How did I end up hacking on Stripe? I have a really interesting story behind this, so we'll get into it. And we'll go into understanding of the integrations, how you can integrate Stripe into your site and all. And we will get into the issues that I found and some of the closing thoughts as well. So let's get into why Stripe first. So there's this competition by HackerOne called Ambassador World Cup, which is basically Bug Bounty World Cup. So you form a team of your country. You're representing your country, and you compete with other countries. And you're asked to hack on specific targets on for a specific time. And the team which has more bugs wins the round, and then you go on and on and on until we have the winner. So it's like Football World Cup but for bug bounties. So in the Ambassador World Cup 2023, we had one of the targets, which was Stripe. And yeah, it is Stripe is pretty complex. So if it were not for this competition, I would not have bothered looking into it, because I've got better things to do, more programs that I've experienced. But I had to look into it because it's a competition, right? So I, did a dive into it. I looked into their main application, the Stripe dashboard, and, I hacked on it for 10 days straight, minimum sleep, more hacking, and I ended up with 4 bucks. And those were 2 mediums and 2 lows. So it was pretty disappointing. And yeah, at least we won that round, so it was pretty good, but the results were really disappointing, at least for me personally. So fast forward 1 year, and in the Ambassador World Cup 2024, we have the same target again. And I'm really frustrated at this point, because I have looked into the main application so much, and I didn't find anything, and I'm really hopeless that I won't find anything interesting or impactful. So I took a step back, and I decided I'd look for something else than the main application, because everyone is hacking on the main app. So yeah, I looked through their policy and found out that they have their whole, GitHub repository in scope for their bug bounty program. So I was why not look into it, right? So that's what I did, and I was just scrolling through their GitHub repositories, and I found out one of their integrations in, Magento, for Magento. So it was Magento extension for Stripe that you could use to, get payments for your e-commerce. So I was all right, let's look into it. And yeah, I took a couple of days to, do all the debugging setup, setting up API keys, Docker, it really messed up with me. And yeah, it took a while, but I was able to get the setup running, and those are the issues that I found, which I'll be talking here. So beyond Ambassador World Cup as well, I did a bit more dive into it, and I was able to find even more, simpler but more interesting issues. So yeah, that was the story behind hacking on Stripe. Normally it is one of the most hardened targets on HackerOne, if you'd ask me. But yeah, they're so simple issues which we'll get into. So before we even get into the bug, we need to know how you can integrate Stripe, or how the integration works. So you might have seen this at some point in your life in some websites. So this is Stripe checkout for you. And it doesn't take much. You just get some API keys, you install some extensions, and you can just put this up, and you'll be able to get payments from, and Stripe will handle everything for you. So this is what it looked like for Magento. So this is the Magento checkout. Like after you add the product to your cart, after you enter all the shipping information, this is what you get. At the last point, you've got this payment box from Stripe, which you're meant to enter your card information and like it will process your payment. Looks pretty secure, right? I mean, I wouldn't dare, trying to hack on that. It's like in like a million. It's a million of sites. So yeah, but because I had hacked on Stripe before, I knew a couple of API requests like this. So there's this request post/v1/payment methods, which is basically taking in all your information, all your billing address, your card information like expiry date, 16 digits, and everything, and just returning you with this ID, PM_ID. So this is something we need to watch out for later. So there's this ID. The payment method object gets created in the Stripe API, and you've got this ID, which is like the virtual card you have on Stripe backend, which you'll be using as identifier for the payments. So yeah, once you enter your card information and that request goes on, this is the last request which gets sent by Magento backend to like process your payment and ship the order. So this is like the request from Magento backend, which is like the REST default, whatever. And you've got this payment method here, which is Stripe payments, and you've got this ID here, which is your payment object ID. So yeah, we're here to flowcharts and trying to understand what this is, right? So you add something to card, and then you do the normal process. You enter your card information, and you're passed to post/v1/payment methods, and you get the payment object here, which gets sent to Magento backend, and the order creation starts. So there's this interesting thing happens here, which is like attaching of your payment object to the customer. So like, what is this? So you have this Magento dashboard and you have this Stripe dashboard. So each user you have on Magento dashboard, you have one on Stripe dashboard as well. So you create an account in Magento and process your payment, right? So there has to be some way for Stripe to know that you are the actual user who is like doing the payment. So you have this feature to like save your cards as well in most of the sites if you know. So yeah, this is how it works. So you have this customer account, which is mapped with the customer object in Stripe backend, which is now mapped with the payment method object. So you're basically, this payment method object that we created gets mapped with customer object, and we have a customer account that's mapped with Stripe object, right? Stripe customer object. So, yeah, this is what the flow looks like for like saved cards. If you have the saved card, you can retrieve card based on the flowchart that I just showed previously, and you can choose a card, and then the same flow goes on. So with this in mind, let's get into the first issue, which is like dead simple. It's just an idle, spoilers. So yeah, if we used like someone else's payment object, what was happening in the background was that it was just retrieving the user from the payment method instead of from Magento backend. So if you use someone else's payment object, it's just retrieving the customer from payment object instead of Magento, which means you'd be able to use anyone's card. And what interesting thing happens here is that the Stripe customer is mapped with Magento customer as well. So yeah, so we have these two users, user A and user B. And user A tries to use the card B, which user B owns. But if user A uses card B, what's happening here is that the backend is taking in the customer B and like mapping it in the Magento backend, basically overwriting the user. So if we use someone else's card, we're basically that user. And coming back to this flow, now we're basically overwriting the victim, and we are acting as the victim, so we'll be able to get everything, all the saved cards that the victim has, and yeah, use it all we want. So yeah, they passed this issue by adding a check for validate payment method. Now whenever you try to use someone else's card, they just check whether you are the real owner on Magento backend. So yeah, it was a pretty straightforward issue, and there might be a question on, but how would you guess the payment method object, because it looked pretty complex, right? But I was able to find a pattern. It had a specific pattern of like organization. It had like the same ID for all the organizations, and then there were like only 2 or 3 characters that you needed to guess. So it was basically like you could get all the payment objects, even though it looked pretty complex. But now they have made it even longer, and I think it is unguessable. At this point, I haven't really looked into it after my last engagement, so maybe I'll wait for the next World Cup to look into it again. But yeah, let's see. So yeah, that was the first issue, and we'll get into the second one, which is the actual bypass payments. So this is also a really simple issue, but yeah, it is a pretty interesting one. So this was after the World Cup, and I wanted to look into something else after like my engagement with Magento. So yeah, we had this PrestaShop, and I decided, all right, let's go. So everything set up, debugging and things, and like installing extensions and getting this page ready. And yeah, as usual, this is what the flow looks like. It's exactly the same as what it was in Magento. You add something to card, you enter your data, the shipping addresses and everything, and then you get this payment page. Again, the same box, payment box. And I really did like a lot of hardcore digging for this source code. I was like really looking into all those things and sources and everything, but I was not able to find much interesting leads. But there was this endpoint, which so this is like controller/from/calculate shipping. This is like the endpoint for like shipping, and it was pretty interesting because this is something you don't normally have here, right? It is something that should be happening on the back end. It is not something that you like give an endpoint for. You give an REST API endpoint for users to send. So it was pretty interesting, but the problem was that I had this endpoint, and I had this source code as well. But the problem was that there was no context. So how is it being used? Where is it being used? And like what can I do with it? Is there even a point of having this endpoint? So yeah, I was pretty frustrated and really out of clues for everything, and I went for a walk with this page open. And when I came back, I saw something like this. So there is this extra button that says Amazon Pay, and apparently this is Express Checkout. So I had enabled this Express Checkout in my settings for PrestaShop, and then I went for a walk. Like it took like at least 15 to 20 seconds for this page to come up, and so yeah, I was able to find this extra button, and I was really excited. Now we have like more attack surface, something new that we can try. And yeah, so what it basically does is you just click on that button. You don't have to go through the classic entering all the information part, and you just log into your Amazon account and just place your order, and that's it. So yeah, I was looking through the request and I found this calculate shipping. So now the dots are starting to connect. So we have this endpoint here, and I now know like where it is being used and how it's actually being used. And yeah, so sending the request, it just responds back with like the price value and price excluding tax and stuff like that, and lots of other things in response. So what it's basically doing is like taking in your address and like calculating the shipping, as the name goes by. So yeah, so as anyone would do like before like doing really hardcore analysis, I just did match and replace. Just to be like, just to get through the first phase of testing things out. And yeah, the price went down. The shipping charge was 0, but in most of the cases, it's just like in the front end, right? The order actually does not get placed. So yeah, I had no hopes at all for this to work, but yeah, it did. And I was like, I felt so stupid, and I even made a tweet saying that you're trying too hard when looking for bugs. Like sometimes all you need is like match and replace or something like that. And yeah, so it was pretty, I don't know, it was pretty surprising. But as you know, like match and replace is not really an issue in itself because it's just a way to get to the actual issue. So yeah, I looked into this request, which was getting sent to Amazon Pay, and you could basically, take in any amount you want, and it will like process it. So the catch here was that as long as the payment status was valid, as long as the intent was valid, so we'll come into intent later. So as long as the payment was, the status it had, the status of succeeded, it would work. So it didn't really care whether like what the amount was. So yeah, it was pretty simple, and yeah, so they fixed the issue by adding a stricter check on express limit. Now you cannot even go through it without like having the actual value. So yeah, that was pretty much it for like the second issue. Again, it was really simple. Like just needed to go for a walk and like get that express button to find the issue. So we're here for the third issue. This has to be my favorite bug, even though this is not the most impactful issue. This is like a really logical sort of thing, and yeah, this is my favorite bug out of all. So yeah, we're here in express checkout. We're still digging into it. We're trying to milk everything out of this new thing we found, and so let's get into the flow now. We need to understand how it works and maybe try to find a couple of issues there as well. So yeah, the flow is pretty similar, except we have a couple of new things here. So you view the product, you wait for a while, and then you get this express checkout, and you have this calculate shipping, which we already discussed, and then there is this request being sent called create intent, and you confirm this intent, and the rest of the flow goes on. So what is intent? So yeah, there's this thing called payment intent for Stripe, which is like a box, which is like it's an object, but it's like a box of like to be paid this amount, and if you pay, it's like green. Okay, you can go. So yeah, if you create an intent, the request gets sent to like post/v1/payment intents, which ends up creating an intent object. So there are lots of different things here inside that object, but what matters to us is the amount and the status. So you have this amount which you give for that product, and then the status which by default is pending. So if your payment, and then this request this is basically trying to grab the money from your card or something, and then check if like it worked, and if it did, you get like the status succeeded. If it doesn't work, you get the fail. So yeah, this is what the logic for intent looks like. If the the asked amount is paid, the intent goes like green, and it's like, okay, you paid this amount, which will validate it by Magento backend, PrestaShop backend. So yeah, this is what the flow looks like, and after the payment succeeds, get/auto confirm, and the cart ID and the payment intent ID gets sent, which basically creates an order object in PrestaShop backend. So yeah, we have all this flow in Stripe API after creating the intent, and the last point is creating an order. So what I did was I basically skipped the part of like paying for that intent, and I just went directly to like confirming the order, creating an order. And because PrestaShop was not validating whether the status was succeeded or not, so I was able to create an order, but it was marked as incomplete. So because we haven't paid anything, right? So it's still waiting for payment, because some payment might take like hours or like even days if you're doing maybe wire transfer. I didn't find that thing here, but like it's still a possibility. So yeah, creates an order, but marks it as incomplete. So yeah, the shop owner will be able to tell, even though there is an order created, they'll be able to tell that the customer has not paid for that. So yeah, this is what the normal flow looks like. You create an express checkout, and payment intent is created, an order as well that you can create, and unless the payment is completed, you don't get that green signal for the order. So unless we get to that point, it's kind of pointless. But there was this interesting case, and PrestaShop has a feature. If by any chance if by any chance customer pays like more or less than the asked amount, you're basically notified. The shop owner is notified that the customer has paid like more or less. So there's this warning. So if you somehow paid like $10 for a $15 product, it would be like, warning, the user has paid less or something like that. Which in normal case doesn't happen, but they still have this this template for like notifying the shop owners. And yeah, so I thought for a moment, and I was like, what if we like play around with payment intent, and what if the check is being done before checking whether like the payment status is succeeded or not. So yeah, that's what I tried, and I found out that if you create an order, it basically checks whether you paid more or less first, and then it checks whether you actually paid or not. So if we create an order of like $50, it would check and create an like order object in PrestaShop backend. What it would do is it would basically check first whether the amount matches or not. So in this case, we're paying $50 for a $10 product, which means the amount doesn't match. And what PrestaShop does here is it basically gives you a warning saying that the customer has paid more than the intended amount, and it gives you a payment error. So it is like you're still getting a payment error, but of a different way. So the payment error doesn't mention the customer didn't pay or like the payment status is incomplete, but rather it says the customer has paid more. So that shop owner can return the additional money. So yeah. You exploit this issue and you get the free product and some extra money as well while you're at it. So yeah, that was the issue I really loved, because yeah, it would take like the shop owners a bit skipping validating everything to get that, but if it worked, you'd get some extra cash as well. So this is the last issue for the talk, which is credit card heist. So I went deep this integration so much that I actually ended up finding a bug in the Stripe API itself, which was not intended. So what did it take to find this bug? Absolutely nothing. I was like going through the vulnerable request like 10 or 20 times. I mean, maybe even 50 times. I was just skipping that request, and yeah, but like there was this time I really looked upon it a bit sharply, and it was like there's this right in front of me. So yeah. Again, getting back to like saving cards. If you save a card, you gotta use it, and Stripe API will send a request to confirm the card, and the request goes to post/v1/confirmation token, and it sends in your payment method object ID. So there are lots of parameters that are going in, and it seems a bit overwhelming at first. Not really overwhelming, but like this might be secure. But let's in the response you get everything. You get your credit card information, the last 4 digits, and you get the type obviously of your card, and you get all email address, name, phone number. I didn't have that there, so it's showing up now. But in real world, you'd have everything, the billing address, and everything that you can think of. So that's what you get in the response for this request. And yeah, so let's look into the request itself. Let's not go anywhere else. Let's not try to do something funny. Let's just analyze this request that was literally being sent for retrieving your set cards. So there are 3 key parameters: payment method, client context, customer, and key. So as I mentioned earlier, payment method is something that we already guessed. So this is out of question, because we know, we can basically enumerate all of it. And we have this client context, customer, who is not really needed, because, as I said, payment method has everything, including the client, including the customer details as well. So yeah, you can just remove that parameter and it will work fine. And we have this key, which seems a bit, okay, you cannot guess this, or you will not be able to get it anywhere. But if you have looked into Stripe or know a bit about Stripe, even implemented it on your site or something, you'd quickly understand that this is not even a private key. It's like the public key. So everywhere you see this page, you'll be able to get the public key. So it's basically the public identifier for a merchant. So I am a shop owner. I sell something online. So in order to identify that that payment box is indeed coming from me, or like it's indeed sending money to my account, they have this public ID. So yeah, that was it. Like there was no additional things that was needed to send this request. So you just needed to get the payment ID, and everything else was like payment and like the USD. Those are the things that are really static. And all you needed was like again to enumerate the payment IDs and send request to this endpoint, and you would get everything. So as I mentioned, the response has like all the information of card and the owner as well. So it was pretty secure, and there was no authentication as well, which led to this issue. So yeah, they patched the issue by obviously adding authentication. So yeah, now you don't get to get all the card information so easily. But yeah, this was even though I was like looking into the integration, this is the issue in like the API itself, and it was there for a long time, because it was not the first time that I saw this endpoint. Well, when I found this issue, I've been looking at this endpoint for like, I don't know, weeks or months or something like that, and I missed it. And yeah, so did like security folks from Stripe did. And yeah, that was it. Like it was a really simple find. And yeah, I found a lot of other low-hanging issues as well, which are not talking about, like lots of CSRs, lots of IDORs and things like that. A lot of issues out there. It was like kind of DBW sort of integrations, because looks like no one had looked into those. So yeah, that's it for all the issues, and a bit of some of the closing thoughts that I would like to give, which is like complexity equals bugs. Because again, as I mentioned, I myself had tried to avoid Stripe for such a long time, and I was literally forced to hack on it just for the sake of competition, and I did it, and like trying to go get a bit out of my comfort zone from like the main application and looking into something else, looking into something less known attack surface was pretty rewarding. And yeah, if you do something like this, maybe you can do bug bounties in easy mode as well, if there is any bug bounty hunters out here. So yeah, thank you. If you have any questions, please let me know. Any questions? This one? Sorry? Yeah. Yeah. It was accepted. Yeah. It just checked the status and not the value at all. Sorry.
Did he try negative? Yeah.
No, because like Stripe wouldn't let it pass, because Stripe is working on backend as well. Like Amazon is working there as well, so like they're obviously not allowing negative values. So yeah, again, like for like $1, $2 or whatever amount, as long as it's positive, you'd be able to pay that amount, but you would not be able to pay the negative amount, or like even create an payment for like negative amounts. So it didn't work.
But you try really big amount.
Really big amount? No, I didn't.
I think the number gets too big and then.
So I think I did it. I did try once, but like, yeah, he just asked me to pay that amount. So yeah. Sorry. Yeah, so that's the catch. We're actually not paying the amount. We're just making an incomplete payment. Like, so let me get to this slide. Yeah, here. So if we got to this stage, we would be paying. but we're just creating a payment of the higher amount, but we're not paying it. We're just creating an incomplete amount and then just creating an order for it. We're just skipping the payment part because I would not want to pay more.
But why is that code there in the first place?
Sorry?
Why do you think that code was there in the first place?
Maybe to prevent payment bypasses or something. Yeah, because I don't know, maybe you pay a specific amount and then the payment, the price of product goes higher or lower than maybe. I'm not sure why. I'm not an e-commerce expert, so. Sorry, can you?
Yeah, maybe to try and apply it for
Yeah, that might be the case. Yeah. Yeah, that might be the case.
Why did you disclose them? Sorry.
Why did you disclose?
Secret.
I mean, I just wanted you all to know how how complex things might seem, but under the hood there are some really easy issues as well that are just there because people are intrigued by the complexity.
You should have just bought the competition on someone else's account.
Yeah, but I didn't really find lots of e-commerce sites, and so I decided to report it. Reporting it to Stripe pays more than trying to exploit it. It is not normally the case in hacking, but yeah.
As a user, just don't save your card. That's the only thing, right?
Yeah, but for the credit card heist, the last issue that I saw, even if you didn't save the card, you could get it off.
You didn't have to return it from somewhere. That information.
Sorry?
You didn't have to return that information.
Once you just use the card, it will get saved in Stripe's backend. So whether you save it or not, there's this card.
Okay, so it will get sent back.
Yeah. You just can't use it if you're not saving it, but the information is there forever. So any other questions?
We noticed with last year that a lot of Stripe IDs changed format, so they completely detached of any predictable patterns out, wider than the ones that you showed, customer IDs also jumped in length and complexity.
For customer IDs, I think it's the same, but for payment IDs, they have made it a bit longer. But as I said, I haven't really looked into it whether it is I only looked at the size and it was longer while preparing the slide. So I'm not sure if they made it even more unpredictable or something. It's something that I need to look into later. Maybe next year with more issues like this and sequel for this talk. So any other questions? Yeah.
So the fix for the last issue, you could no longer enumerate all the data that was there, and the text body comeback said that key didn't have permission to do that. So that suggests there are some keys that do have that permission. Is there any way to see from the structure of the key whether people are actually deploying the right keys with that kind of reduced set of permissions versus whether inexperienced store builders are still deploying keys with the full set of permissions?
So actually, that key is completely public. You don't really assign permissions to this key. It is public. You cannot do anything with it except pay for that specific merchant. So this is not some sort of overly permissive or something key that.
So you can scrape every Stripe site looking for any other key.
Yeah.
You can see any other key.
Yeah, for public keys you could do it. So yeah, for private keys, if you got the private keys, you basically have full access to the organization. So.
The public key is unique to each merchant.
Sorry?
The public key is unique to the merchant.
Yeah. You just need that box of payment. You just need a place to enter your card information, so you'll get it. Yeah. So yeah, no one would actually use this Stripe and not have that box to accept payments, right? So. Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you.